we're not in Oak Island. No, we're not. We're in the Bimini Bahamas, and we're gonna go fishing this week. We're here with Captain Josh. He got himself a fish right there, and we're gonna catch some more. You want to go fishing in Bimini? See what it's like? Come on, let's go. All right, cut the music. We're not in the Bahamas yet. Actually, this trip starts in Fort Lauderdale, where we jumped onto the fast ferry and took the boat across to Bimini, Bahamas. Now, the fast ferry leaves, as I said, from Fort Lauderdale. It's a pretty big boat, and it takes about 2 hours to get from Fort Lauderdale over to Bimini. And it seems like, wow, that should be a really fun trip. But, you know, it's basically 2 hours of babies screaming. That's basically what it is. 2 hours of screaming babies. See? Boat goes up and down and baby screams. Sure. Now you can cue the music. Yeah, that's fine, because now we're actually in Bimini, Bahamas, and we're staying in the Bimini Bay resort area, and this is the Airbnb house we decided to rent. Now, Bimini is sort of divided into two sections from what I could tell. There's basically one road that goes all the way down the island, and on this half is the Bimini Bay resort area, and then there is the real town where the real Bahamians live, and that's where we wanted to go because we wanted to get down there and get, first of all, some food, so we decided to go to the grocery store, King's Groceries. Now, I remember this place because I watched Gale Force Twins, and they went to Bimini, and this is the place they went to. So I was like, hey, I recognize this place. Now watch what we're going to put in the cart here. Very important. I'm going to grab a little basket. I'm going to hand it to Josh, and Kim is going to stick our bait in. Okay, that looks like bacon. She got bacon, and she got some sausage. And then I looked for bait. Now, I just said she put our bait in the, that was going to be our bait. You'll see what I'm talking about. Because I could not find any bait on the island anywhere. But I did go to look for the bananas, because Gale Force Twins said they had a hard time finding bananas that weren't brown. These aren't too bad. So they had the produce there, tomatoes and stuff like that. Hey, we're going to need those for fish tacos with all the fish we're going to catch. So we couldn't find any bait, but we got the groceries, we brought them back, dropped them off at the house, and then it was time to hit the beach. At least we're dropping the girls off at the beach. So here they are. They're going to enjoy the chairs and the umbrellas, and we're going to go find some place to fish. There's this great little, I don't know what I'm going to call it, a boardwalk? I guess so, with these creepy stairs and ramps that lead down to this dangerous looking area. Josh and I decided, let's go down there and fish. Now, I brought a rod and a reel that is a travel rod and reel that I just got brand new. This is the first time taking it out. It is a toadfish rod, and here's Joshua putting the tip on. And before we could even fish with it, I don't know what happened, but right here, it popped off. The top broke. I mean, I don't know why, it just broke the very tip of the rod. And there's Joshua, he's like, whoa, what's going on? So we're going to fish with this rod, even though the tip broke off, the very tip. But I'm like, okay, that's fine. We can still fish with it. But the problem was we didn't have any bait. So I got out the sausage that we bought at King's Grocery. And I'm like, let's try to fish with sausage. You might think like that sounds like a kind of a silly idea, but you know what? I'm like, we don't have anything else, so I like sausage. Who doesn't like sausage? I'm sure the fish do too. So I cast it out, and you know what? At first, it kind of sat there, but after a while, it kind of, I think they liked it. They were like, oh, breakfast. We're going to have like we're going out for brunch. We're going to have some sausage. And we started catching some fish. Now, we didn't catch any monsters, right where we were fishing, but it was low tide. But we were finding some spots near the rocks, so the fish were hanging out. So here we go. Now, you want to identify the fish? I'm going to have a real hard time with them. We're going to get some blue runners and some grunts and some, I don't know what they are, because they don't look like North Carolina fish at all. Josh was doing great at it. Now, none of these were monsters, but it was fun to catch them and just reeling in these little fish on the sausage. So I'm like, all right, we can keep doing this. Now, here's another little guy right here. Like I said, not very big, but at least we're catching them. We're pulling them in. So that was fishing excursion 1. Now, with that said, we decided to go out on a boat. So we hired Captain Matthew Stewart to take us out, and he's going to take us to 3 different areas, and we're going to do some fishing. But before we do, we're going to have some fun and go see some of the wildlife that's down there in Bimini. Now, here's the only problem. So what are we doing?
Not fishing.
Oh, no. Oh. Oh.
Can you put it in the cup holder?
Throw it over the side of the boat. Yeah, the ladies' playlist was less than desirable. So we went to our first stop, which was nice and shallow, and there were some sharks in the water, and they were really big, but they were nurse sharks. So I'm like, I don't mind getting in the water with a nurse shark. They're probably more afraid of me than I am of them. And they kind of were. They kind of swam away once I tried to get up close to them. And there were stingrays everywhere too. And this was kind of like the little tourist trap thing. Hey, we'll take you out and show you the stingrays. And they gave us some squid, and then we could feed them. So they would come up and suck the squid out of your hands, which is kind of weird. And they're big and they're slimy. And they do have little spikes on their tails, so I guess we had to stay away from that. For the most part, though, they were really gentle, and Kim just wanted to pick them up and hug them and keep them for her very own. Here's Josh with some of the squid pieces we had, and they really attacked the bag. I think he dropped all the squid, but here's one piece. Watch him come up and get it. Go ahead, get the squid. Yum, 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 yum. I should have saved that for bait instead of using sausage. That's what I should have done. So, I mean, I did use a sausage, but then we went for fishing excursion number 2, and this time I brought some bacon. We're using bacon, so that's all we got. Can't find any shrimp or bait on the islands, at least not around here. I wish I had brought the fish gum. And actually, in hindsight, the fish gum would have been a great idea, because I could have just packed it in the bag and brought it down, and I'm sure I wouldn't have had any trouble going through customs with a bag of fish gum. And it would have worked. But the bacon worked. Like I said, who doesn't like bacon? Everybody likes bacon, including the fish. Now, the biggest trouble we were having was the fact that now the eye on top broke, and I tried to fix it and actually just broke another eye. So now I'm down to like 3 or 4 eyes instead of like the 7 you should have. But we're still catching fish. It was hard to feel the sensitivity when the fish were pulling on it. But here's another fish that I don't know what it is. Maybe a schoolmaster. Josh knows most of these, so I could go and ask him. But we were having fun and we were catching them. But I just thought we could do better with some real bait. Now this one's a schoolmaster. I'm pretty sure that's a schoolmaster. So we decided to take a ride back into town and see if we could find some bait. This time we went down the island, the Bohemian side of the island, keep Bimini clean, and we found the Big Game Resort. It's a Big Game Fishing Club. And I think there's a hotel, and they have a restaurant here, and they have the dock and the marina, and you can go out on boats from there. And Coldwell Banker, remember our sponsor, Coldwell Banker, who sponsored us in our fishing tournament. They have one in Bimini, and Kim had to go in and say hi to them. And then we went in the gift shop there at the Big Game, and they had a lot of things that I didn't think they were going to have, like wine and snacks and cookies. And I was thinking that, a big game place, they're going to have like fishing gear and stuff like that. And they had a little bit. They had hot sauce. Oh yeah. I was tempted. Believe me, I was really tempted, but I was a man on a mission. I was looking for bait. And then way in the back, I saw a cooler, and I was like, oh, why would there be a cooler in a store? And when I got there, it was like, yes, there's some ballyhoos, and on the other side, there was some Mahaden, and there was some shrimp. And then Kim was like, hey, your fishing rod broke. Maybe you can get a new fishing rod. Here's one made out of coconuts. It actually worked when you turn the handle. So, but I was like, nah, I think I'll pass. We'll just stick with the shrimp. So I picked up 2 bags of shrimp, and Josh and I are going to go back down to that beach one more time. And this time we're going to use shrimp. On the way back, we went past the Hemingway house. No, not that. That's the cheap restaurant inside the hotel. Not that right there. Actual Ernest Hemingway's house where he lived. He actually spent 2 years in Bimini, and I believe he wrote the book The Old Man and the Sea in Bimini. I could be wrong about that, but I believe that's true, and that's actually where he lived. I'm sure the house was nicer back then, but that's an actual historical landmark right there in Bimini. So I can't go wrong with that. Now, the third excursion, we decided to go out, and it was high tide and the wind was blowing like crazy. Now, this is the same spot. We were standing down there the other day fishing, and now look at the waves. And I'm telling you, we were 15 feet below sea level. That's the top of the wall. And those waves are kicking up another like 10, 15 feet. I mean, those are like 30-foot splashes. So I was like, I don't think we're going to go down the creepy stairs. We'll just kick a coconut down there. We'll fish from up here. And we had shrimp this time. So even though the waves were blowing, the wind was blowing, the waves were crashing, we still gave it a whirl. And even though I was down only like 2 eyes on my broken reel, which made it real difficult, we were still catching some fish. So we were having a lot of fun right there. If you're going to go to Bimini, definitely go down there to the Big Game place, pick up some shrimp day one. You'll probably do better than we did on our sausage and our bacon. Because once we had the shrimp, even in those crazy blowing winds and waves, we were doing all right. And once we had mastered the wall fishing, it was time to go back out with Captain Matt and Barry, his first mate, and they were going to take us to a wreck. We were going to do some snorkeling there.
Okay, this ship was built during World War II. They built 5 of these actually to take over, cargoes and troops and all that over to the European War. And after they built it, because they didn't have enough steel around, it was basically just for military. So the ship builders came up with a new idea. They said, let's try rebars and concrete. So they actually made this ship out of concrete. So we, as native, we call it the concrete ship. But the real name is the Sapona. So after they went over to Europe, they found out it was too small, couldn't carry sufficient cargo. So they scrapped the idea. A wealthy Bahamian gentleman, he bought one of them. And he wanted to turn it into a hotel and a casino. But back in the 1920s, they never used to name the storm. It just used to be a hurricane. So it was anchored offshore, waiting on, time to get all the clearance and all that, then to take it into Nassau. A storm came, blew it up here. Wow. So he lost the ship. Because, they just couldn't get it back off.
After the creepy boat, we went out towards the reef because Captain Matt had one more spot he wanted us to see where, near the reef where, things in the ocean like reef sharks live. Okay, that's what we're going to do.
You're going in the water? Sharks in the water? Our shark. Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu to you ladies of Spain. Because we've received orders to sail back to Boston. What? Now I'm in trouble. If we get eaten by a shark, I'm really going to be in trouble.
Dun-dum, dun-dum. Dum, 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 dum. Okay, we're actually going diving with the sharks. Okay, this to me seems like a really bad idea. I'll tell you why. Because I catch sharks on occasion and have caught them, and I feel like they might be thinking they know that, and it's payback time for me. But we get into the water, and lo and behold, there are all these reef sharks, and it looks like maybe they're far away. And I was giving them, keeping my respectable distance, ex-New Yorker. Like I need my personal space, but they were actually a lot closer than it appears. Maybe sometimes even closer than I wanted them to be. So Josh got in. Kim got in first, actually. She just jumped right in. She's got no fear. I had to think about it a little bit, but I'm like, all right, I got to get in. I got to at least say I did it. I fish for them all the time. I got to swim with them once in a while. So they were just swimming around. And then we convinced Sylvie to get in. And she got in and didn't realize there were all these sharks around her. So she got right back on the boat.
Yes.
How was your shark experience?
Terrifying.
How was your shark experience?
A little fishy.
Finally, it was time to do some real fishing, some big game fishing, the kind of thing I was hoping to do when we got out to Bimini. So this is Barry right here, and he is putting on a ballyhoo with probably about a 5/0 hook. I would think maybe it was a 5 size hook and a steel line. Like the whole line was steel on this reel. Like there was not a steel leader, it was all steel, like a steel line. I've never seen anything like that. And so we let Josh get the first one. We got hit right away as soon as we put the ballyhoo in, and he pulled up what turned out to be a really ginormous barracuda with big teeth and very stinky. Barracuda can be very stinky. And Barry, to my surprise, was like, yeah. I'm like, well, what are you going to do with it? And he's like, oh, we're going to keep it. I'm like, you're going to keep it. I said, I want no part of this stinky thing. Then it was my turn, and I got a fish right away as well. So, you got to reel down and pull up. There it goes. Reel down, pull up. It took me, that's a lot of coordination for me. In the surf, I guess I'm supposed to do that, but here you really have to do it. So I caught one on the other line. This you can see is actually probably pretty heavy pound test, just mono line, which was cool. But it didn't matter because my fish was not quite as big as Josh, but it turned out to be another barracuda. I'm like, okay, we're really good at catching these barracuda. They're definitely eating up the ballyhoo. And Barry kept that one too. So I asked him, I'm like, what are you going to do with that? And he's like, oh, we've got this friend who really likes barracuda. Now, I've heard the CDC has said that eating barracuda is a no-no. They carry some disease that supposedly can make you quite sick. So I didn't really want to take any part in it. So I was hoping we were going to catch something besides barracuda. I would have liked mahi-mahi. I would have loved a sailfish. What are the chances, right? But we were really just trolling. That's what we were doing. Joshua got another one on the steel. There you can see it. Steel line. So he got the big one. Started reeling that in, and I'm like, come on, mahi-mahi. We all got our fingers crossed. But unfortunately, it turned out to be, you want to guess it? Another barracuda. So their friend is going to be really happy because he's going to have a lot of barracuda to eat. So I caught 2 barracuda, Josh caught 2 barracuda, and then Kim wanted to take a shot at it. So she got a fish on the line, and we were all excited because she thought it felt a little smaller. And we're like, okay, maybe this is the mahi-mahi. And you know what it turned out to be? You want to guess? Oh man, we are so. And Sylvie's like, "Is that the only fish you have in the ocean? Is barracuda? Is that the only fish in this ocean?" So we're like, "Okay, Sylvie, why don't you get on and show us how to do it?" So Sylvie got on, and she got a hit on the mono line and started reeling it in. Now she didn't have that pull up, reel down thing too well. She was kind of just doing the reel thing, but it was working and it was coming in. And lo and behold, Sylvie's fish turned out to be the final fish of the day, right? This is the last fish we caught that day after having a whole bunch of barracuda. It was really nice to see. Want to guess what it was? No, it wasn't a barracuda. It was a Spanish mackerel, and a beautiful Spanish mackerel. I'm like, oh yes, put that in the cooler. That one I'll take. You guys can keep those barracudas, but I want that Spanish mackerel. So that was pretty much our trip. Now, we did do a couple other fun things. We went out and got pizza one night at Edith's Pizza. I'm going to recommend you go there if you want pizza in Bimini. Go down to Edith's Pizza and get the pizza there. And also, we went to Ebby's one night, which was a restaurant right on the water. Like, the restaurant's actually floating on the dock. And there were nurse sharks swimming underneath the dock while we were eating. It was very cool. Now, we decided to make fish tacos. I can tell you, we had to improvise. Yes, I did make it with pickled peppers, and I rinsed them off so they wouldn't be too vinegary. And I sauteed them up with some onions. We had some beans, some rice, and we were able to put these taco together. A little lime crema, which was mostly just mayonnaise and lime juice because we didn't find this.
Bring him in.
Good one. We got a new species here.
Might be a brassy drum.
Let me get the